Like you know, President Tinubu doubles as a Minister of Petroleum. Kenneth Okonkwo is now asking, what is the rationale behind his doubling as a Minister of Petroleum? Is it that there are no competent hands? There are no competent APC members? There are no competent Nigerians who are technocrats to manage that sector more effectively and efficiently? What is the rationale? Kenneth Okonkwo is not the first to call that the president should step aside.
The Honorable Dachungu Bagos and Kenneth Okonkwo, who is a lawyer and a member of the Labour Party. Welcome to Political Paradigm, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting us.
I don't know, introducing Mr. Okonkwo as a member of the Labour Party is a difficult one, because it would seem that at the time we all saw the public statement and you walking away from the Labour Party and Mr. Peter Obi on the issues of leadership. Perhaps you clarify that, then we'll move on to other issues so that I know how to address you going forward.
That has been clarified before now. You didn't see it anywhere. You heard it from the rumor mill. So I am a member of Labour Party, but I'm not a spokesperson for Peter Obi.
Okay.
And indeed, the election is over. We spoke for 2023 election, and that had been concluded.
All right, great.
So it's really actually, nothing to...
Yeah, that's not why we're here, so let's not dig into that. I just wanted to know how to address you going forward.
No, a lawyer, economist,
Fair enough. Let's go into the business of the day, which is a cabinet reshuffle. Now, I'd like to get your thoughts, both of you, on the cabinet reshuffle. It was very much anticipated, even though it was unprecedented. What we had heard that the president was going to reshuffle his cabinet. Now it's been done. I know it's been a week, but the conversation has been sustained, and that's because of some of the appointments and the concerns raised from the appointments of the president. So let's hear your thoughts on this cabinet reshuffle, Mr. Okonkwo.
Well, I do not know why this government continually miss opportunity to even rewrite some of its perfidy. Now, the whole issue of reshufflement is an admission that your cabinet is not going the way you thought they would go. And then it's also an opportunity for you to redress a lot of things that are very wrong with your administration. You came in and people were crying. The cost of governance is quite high. Then you sacked 5 ministers and you chose 7. How does that address the issue of cost of governance? Now, let's go to the nitty-gritty of the ministers that he chose. There are about 48 ministers in this cabinet, and there are about 32 substantive ministers, 16 ministers of state. For the avoidance of doubt, ministers of state, they are not recognized by the Constitution. They are contraption by the president. By Section 147, subsection 1, it is clear the president should appoint ministers of the government of the federation. And by Section 147, subsection 3, it said that appointment must accord with Section 14.3 of the Constitution, which is the federal character principle, which states that the composition of every government and the conduct of its affairs must reflect the federal character. In order to command national unity, national loyalty, and ensure that there is no preponderance of persons from a particular ethnic group, from a particular section on the government. Now, this government has 8 substantive ministers from Southwest. That's about 25% of the 32 ministers in Nigeria. In South-South, 6 states with the Southwest, they have only 3 substantive ministers. That is about 9% of the substantive ministers. In the Southeast, they have 2. That's about 6% of the substantive ministers. So out of the 32, you see how Ogun State alone has more substantive ministers than the entire Southeast. And then equal ministers from the South-South. And I can name them if you want. Minister of Power, Industry, Interior, Finance, Communication, Education, Marine Resources, Solid Mineral. from Southwest. And they're talking about 2. Southeast, works, science. 3, South-South. You're talking about
Southeast.
2 substantive ministers.
Okay, substantive. You're
Substantive.
being specific.
There is nothing like ministers of state. That's a contraption of the president. That is why Festus Keyamo said it at the FEC meeting that it's illegal. However, it is not illegal because they are ministers of state. It is illegal because the president is using it to say he has given a state a substantive ministry, which is illegal. Because every state is equal by the federal character principle. That's the whole idea of it. So every state is entitled to a substantive minister. He said at least 1 minister. And I'm talking about section 147, subsection 3 of the Constitution. So what I'm saying is that in the South-South, you have the FCT, aviation, and regional development ministers. Substantive. So this government has continued in the line of governing this country with preponderance of people from the Southwest, his own geopolitical zone, portraying him as ethnic bigot, portraying him as a man incapable of uniting Nigeria and giving people a sense of belonging. The danger is that his government will never get the loyalty that it needs to govern.
Okay, so let me get on Burgos. You're from the northern part of the country, and perhaps you could speak to these concerns raised by Mr. Okonkwo with regard to the regional distribution of the regional distribution of the appointment of the president and the legality or otherwise of ministers of state as appointed by not just this president anyway, previous presidents.
Well, I'll tell you, that has been our concern over the years. I'm from Plateau, and that's why the agitation has led most of us from the North Central to have the Middle Belt. And the Middle Belt is an agitation of being marginalized in a lot of things, and be it in governance, be it in the central government at the federal level. And on our cry at the Middle Belt has been that, look, we have qualified people, we have people that know what to do at the right. If you look at the trajectory over the years since 1960, the best brains that you can find in every professional field and even in politics are from the Middle Belt, and that is not central. But when it comes to the regional, try to be identified and to be in the presence of governance at the federal level, that has been how we have been marginalized over the years. And that's why one of the major issues again, not just the marginalization, it has been, we have been seen as people that are facing extinction in terms of the cases of insecurity over the years. You see, the North Central, the Middle Belt region of Nigeria has been the area that has been so bedeviled with insecurity. And with what we are seeing now, Terry, it's a concern that are we looking at a national government that will have people that are so qualified, or are we looking at government in terms of the true word of it's my own tongue? And continuing at that line, I even against the constitutional provision, it calls for serious worry, because now another zone will be waiting for its own turn to be able to see that, look, well, you're finished yours, and will now come down. I remember the high agitation during the Buhari era, that some of the, or most of the appointments are to the northerners or to the northeast. And here is it that within 1 year, it's even just 1 year, it's even getting more than, or it's getting worse than what was during the Buhari era. And looking at the ministers that have been brought forth, and I want just to, going back that within 1 year, if this reshufflement is coming up within 1 year, just like Barrister Okonkwo have said, it shows that there is a very big problem.
But before you talk about that problem, I want us to address this issue of the constitution, the legality or otherwise of these ministers of states, because it's been canvassed that it's one way to cut down the cost of governance. But the angle of legality is another thing. Now, while the Constitution provides for the president to appoint and ensure that it's equal distribution across the state or fair distribution across the state, and you argue that there's no provision of the Constitution for ministers of state.
Mhm.
But does this go against the Constitution? Because I also know that the Constitution allows the president to make
Sure.
appointments as necessary, ratified by the National Assembly.
Yes.
You see,
Okay, maybe let me clarify.
No, let me just get...
Yes.
you see, it's still a constitutional matter. That those are issues that we even when we were amending the constitution to make sure that FCT has a slot. That there are nomenclature in the constitution that if not well taken, it to the executive or to the politicians will be where they can play around with it. That if the constitution is said at least one person from a certain state, the politician will say, okay, it says at least.
At least.
But if the constitution, it will give them the room to do whatever they want to do. But if the constitution says one minister from a state, there shall. And you know what? Once that word shall, it's been included, it means that you can't have more than one minister from a state. But if it says at least one, so which means it has given the politician or whosoever the room to play around with whatever. So these are issues that still call for further constitutional amendment.
Okay. So
that it should be, there shall be one. Just what? So
Okay.
if it gives it more room, then well, they will have more room.
I'll come back to you on the appointments and of the president. But Mr. Okonkwo wanted to clarify something.
Yes, I want to make a clarification. There is nothing illegal in the president appointing ministers of state or giving his appointees any name he wants. There is something illegal in not giving a state at least one substantive minister. So you cannot give a state a minister of state and say you have given them one substantive minister.
But then we'll go back to the Constitution with
Yes.
what Honorable Bagos had just talked
Yes.
about without specificity.
It is specified. Section 147,
The
subsection
word
3.
substantive. The word substantive.
No, minister of the federation. There is no minister of state.
Yeah.
Just like when they appointed the national security advisor, the first name they called him was special advisor to the president. We said, no, that's not national security advisor. So the constitution is clear. And you check it, it's the same minister of the government of federation, showing that each one, and you use the word at least. So the government can give a state a substantive minister. If he likes, he can appoint 20 ministers of state in that state. It's not anything illegal.
But every state must have a substantive.
A substantive minister.
All
That
right.
is the whole idea of federal character principle.
Let me go to Honorable Bagos. We're talking about the quality or otherwise of the ministers. So let me just, take it up from there and ask you if you are surprised by this list, the list of those who were not fired, the list of those who were fired, and perhaps the new list. So just round it up for us.
Well, I'm not surprised because some of the ministerial, some of the ministers that were sacked, I think we are long overdue in terms of national image. I can clearly say that of is it the Minister of Women Affairs that after all the time there's one scandal or the other about her, and you can see the celebration in the
But was it
ministry.
really a scandal?
Well,
It would seem
whatever-
that she was fighting corruption in her ministry. I
whatever
recall
view.
clearly that on one occasion, or on two occasions, in fact, she had fought against some unnecessary spendings in her ministry. At one of those events, she came out and said that you must do empowerment for women. Don't spend the money on organizing events. I don't know if...
Yeah, well, but for me, in looking at most of the ministerial nominations and those that were sacked at a point in time, looking at what is the agenda of the present administration, and putting the agenda of the present administration, what is the heartbeat of Nigerians at this particular point in time, in terms of what Nigerians are facing, in terms of hunger, in terms of high cost of living, in terms of looking at what they need to do at the right time. I have not seen all this well spelled out.
Even with the new appointments.
Yeah, because what are they doing to be able to address the issues? Those are the issues that look, what are you doing as a minister? Because I expect that if you're a minister of agriculture, if you're a minister of women affairs, you're a minister of this, the issue in the country at this particular point in time. You should be able to have a well spelled out blueprint, step by step, mid-term, long-term, and the short term, how to be able to address these issues immediately. But when we are just looking at who is a minister, and the only time you see a minister is when he's attending a function. That is the only time we see the ministers. We don't see them looking at issues that have to do with the current challenges. This is what we're doing, and this is what we need. Give us this 4 to 3 months that these issues will be addressed. But at the end of the day, it's still the same cycle going on and going out. The issue of the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, what after then, nothing has happened. What is happening with the ministry? What is happening?
There are 2 ministers now.
Yeah, well,
they have a minister, minister of state.
They just appointed these ones now.
Yes.
So we're going to see what new will happen there.
Okay, you've made a very good point. On this issue of better Edu, I want to have Mr. Okonkwo say something on it. Because it would seem as though she was suspended. An investigation was to be carried out. We don't know the outcome of that investigation. It's not been made public. And now we hear from Special Advisor on Informational Strategy, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, that she's been fired, that she's long gone. On the basis of fair hearing and the vilification in the public space already, based on the allegations against her, is it fair? Is the manner in which she was disengaged fair?
Right. Let me first of all say that, because, you asked him, were you surprised? I said, I am amazed that this government is just wasting Nigerians' time. You know why I'm saying this? The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, they said the problems we have in Nigeria today is frequent policy flip-flop, high interest rate, astronomical energy costs, hyperinflation, multiple charges, toxic operating environment. Now, one would have thought the president would have prioritized reshuffling the cabinet within the most terrible, urgent, problematic areas. And I'm talking about the circle of Ministry of Power, Ministry of Petroleum, Ministry of
Agriculture,
of Economy, generally, Finance, Central Bank. Why am I saying this? Dr. Raymond Kuti, the president, Guild of Medical Directors, he said that 50% of private hospitals have collapsed. And he said the problem is from the operating expenses because of lack of electricity and medical supplies. This thing, he said, rotates around these 4 ministries that I'm saying. Today is almost 8 days, and the entire North has not had light. And you're still keeping a minister of darkness that I've told you that his only solution is that Nigerians should off their refrigerator. So what I'm trying to say is that I was expecting that the president should have sacked himself first as a minister of petroleum, being the worst ministry in the whole world. They met fuel at 195. Today is 1,200, and it's not even available. So we're talking about unaffordability, we're talking about unavailability. The same thing with electricity. Electricity tariff has risen so astronomically, and it's not even available. And then we're talking about in the economy, macroeconomic stability. We're talking about a central bank that is increasing interest rates rather than decreasing it. Because what we are suffering is not demand pull inflation. We are suffering cost of production induced inflation. That is why the president of the Guild of Medical, field, he said, look, to import the medical supplies has increased, the price has increased by 500%. You know what it means? It means that 50% of Nigerians are now dying who are sick because they cannot afford to go to hospital. That's why he said 50% of the hospitals are collapsing. So rather than trying to rejig your cabinet within this area, you are rejigging your cabinet, saying you're sacking women and affairs. He has denied himself now of the services of a woman who would have sued the United Nations, for not, for cornering Nigerian money. So the issue is really very, 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 it's terrible.
Well, can you respond?
They're chasing shadows in this reshufflement. Nothing reasonable. Now, about Edu that you asked, it has told you the hypocrisy in the purported fight against corruption. The mere fact that you said you suspended somebody means there are reasonable suspicion that she compromised herself, compromised her office, and she engaged in corrupt practices.
No, I think the suspension at the time was to pave way for investigation.
So what's the investigation?
So that's the question.
What's the outcome?
So that's the question.
I said
the question is the outcome of that investigation has not been made public.
Right.
In the eyes of the public, she's already guilty. And she's been receiving all sorts of it. She had received all sorts of...
Ikumi, in this studio, I sat down and said that call for investigation was for optics. In this studio, is it not for optics? It's for optics. The thing is that lady was not sacked because she stole. That lady was sacked because she was not clever in stealing.
Let me bring this.
How can you allow people to fly from Kogi to Abuja?
But
let me bring in.
In general, you see, why it will going to be very difficult for things to change is that even the justice system, and I've said this not once, not twice, coming from the issue of insecurity now to economy, I have not yet seen, the only time you will see the justice system is working in taking someone to court is when an administration has wind up and the coming administration will start hunting those that were in the previous administration. Because now, if the system is actually working, and if truly they are saying that this is what better has done, you could have been in the court today or jailed. Nothing has happened to that.
As an example.
So, just like the issue of the insecurity, we have nobody today you can say that it's either this person is going through how many years in prison as a result of these killings or as a result of this. So it's just that at the end of the day, like a cosmetics quick fix to make you feel better that something is being done. But by and large, the resilience of Nigerians, the heartbeat of Nigerians with so prayerfully how we are, that look, things will get better. It's what government should be thankful about. Because it's like when I reviewed some of this, that just 1 year ago, fuel was 190 something. Just 1 year ago, $1 was 300 or 400, just within 1 year. And we're still hoping. And I don't know how the hope will be renewed. So it's not even about the sacking of the technology. People that were in government were there. Just 10 or 20% that came in 1 year ago have made things so terrible. So it's very important that the president should go back to the drawing board. Go back 1 year ago. Where did they get it wrong? And if we just talk about the issue of, some cabals are going with the removal, with is it fuel subsidy. I can tell you, if you ask Nigerians today that why fuel subsidy was removed is because of some cabals, and that is why they are going through. They will tell you, please go and give those cabals that money. Let's go back to the normal way we are living as a people. Where are the alternatives? So these ministers today, these are issues that we want to hear from the ministers. What are alternatives to the current suffering? What are the alternatives to the issue of high fuel increment? What are alternatives to the rise that people are getting 150,000 per bag? What are alternatives to the healthcare? Even in the healthcare, my younger brother got his BP drugs. He has been taking for 8 days. A pharmacist, one of his pharmacist friend, now discovered that those drugs he has been taking were fake at the high cost. So who are checking? What is NAFDAC doing? What is even the health? So all those.
So that's another thing.
A lot of things are going on wrong.
You know, when I first had this conversation last week, when I stood in for Sharon on the show, the concern around the Orosanye report came up. And that report did not just talk about ministries. It talked about departments and agencies. And over the years, I don't think we have seen government respond to issues around either merging or scrapping departments and agencies or government-owned enterprises over the years. Is that something that this administration should be considering?
Absolutely. And that was what I thought they were going to do in this reshufflement. Now, in a capitalist nation, the job of the ministers is essentially regulatory. When you hear Minister of Agriculture, he doesn't go to farm with tractors to till the farm. He's just regulating the system, making policies that will be palatable for the practitioners. What are you doing with 3 ministers for agriculture? And you're pretending that you are implementing a Rasanya report. My problem with this government is the height of hypocrisy. You're talking about Minister of Agriculture, Minister of State, Livestock Minister. For what? What are they doing? Are they the farmers that are going to the field to farm? Are they the people to give security to the farmers?
But the livestock, the livestock ministry itself seems like a security measure.
How?
To address the issue of the farmers.
No, I'm trying to say, why would one minister not regulate the industry of agriculture?
Maybe it hasn't worked. That's why it's changing it.
And when we had one minister in the name of additional, I hope I'm right, the present AFB,
AFDB.
When we had one minister, agriculture was giving us food. Farmers were receiving their fertilizer. Everything was moving on fine. The problem is not number of ministers. Give the farmers security, give them the tools they need, and they will give us the food.
Yeah.
These ministers, you're multiplying corruption because the only thing they have experience for is incompetence and corruption.
Honorable Buggers, do you also dismiss the Ministry of Livestock?
No, I'm not dismissing it.
No, I'm
But
asking
whatsoever, see, most of the...
I'm saying it
most
should
of,
be a department.
If I remember very well, the Ministry of Livestock came in as a result of is it a committee that met the president and gave that recommendation that it will handle the issue of herders, farmers clash, or issues of whatsoever. And then I said, well, if that is what will handle the issues of farmers, herders clash, if there's a Ministry of Livestock, so me that I'm a farmer, they should give me Ministry of Root Crops, or they should give me Ministry, because that's what I'm so much interested in within my own region.
But does that not separate? Does this not separate the Ministry of Agriculture, which would perhaps...
Then what is the name agriculture?
Crop?
What is the name of agriculture in its entirety?
Okay.
The Ministry of Agriculture, it encompasses all this. So if you are now removing livestock from agriculture, then you should remove root crops. Then you should now focus on me, not focus on the person that is killing me in my own farm. So these are issues that, look, most of the policies are just trying to dice down tension, trying to accommodate everybody. So the more you're just trying to accommodate everybody without dispensing and looking at the law, dispensing judgment, dispensing justice, your hands will be so overwhelmed that instead of doing like this to accommodate everybody, it will be free for all. And again, knowing very well that democracy, it's very expensive all over the world. But what other Democrats look at in other countries, part of the world, is that, look, how can the system work, get an enabling environment so that everybody will be equal? So looking at whatsoever, and I've said this not once, not twice, as long as the right indices are not being looked into in getting an enabling environment, we're talking about power, talking about industrialization. Without industrialization of Nigeria to make Nigeria to be an export country, all these things that we are talking, it will just be, we have not seen increment yet. If this thing if what we are seeing will continue now, by next year, March or so, dollar will be up to 2,000 naira. And it's going to be, fuel will keep increasing because it's now the regularization. So everything, as long as we are not an export country, as long as power is not there, as long as insecurity is not being addressed, these issues we are talking about will continue the way it is now, because it's just about a quick fix system. A quick fix system, okay, how can we just manage this to work? How can we just manage this to work? If 50% of private of private hospitals are down, I can tell you 80% of most of these doctors will leave the country. Reason B is that if the private hospitals are working, are our government general hospitals working? Can you go there and get what you need to get in the general hospitals or the government hospitals? Are they actually working? If people are now looking at going out of the country because of school, our universities, can you actually, now the universities are threatening on going on strike. Are they? So a lot of things are not working. It's not about the issue of changing just the ministers, but it's about the ministers. Let us see in the next 2-3 months that with the riot act that the president has given the ministers, they could not be able to meet up. Let the minister resign on his own. I cannot be able to continue with this. But it's unfortunate that it's just about ethnicity, it's about religion, it's about accommodating everybody. But the true national anthem that was changed, if you look at the words one by one, is the president truly working to hand over to the younger generation a banner that has no stain. So a country that we will not, that no one will be oppressed. Are we looking at those lines?
Let's look at something. I know that analysts have canvassed that we should not have a situation where the winner takes it all after elections. And it would seem that the president is heeding that with his appointments. He's appointing members of the opposition into his cabinet. And some have described this as what they call political some say it's just politics, others say it's political tolerance. Those who say it's just politics for him say that he is shrinking the political space and dragging the country into a one-party state. What do you say?
There's nothing wrong in appointing opposition people to your cabinet. If you find them qualified, if you find them, they are going to serve the people. You said it's politics. Would he have been playing chemistry or physics? Politics is the game for democracy. So there is nothing wrong in playing politics. As a matter of fact, if you play good administration in a democracy and you're not playing good politics, you still run into problems. So the issue here is that the reasons for the appointment is not for the welfare of the people.
Are you talking about this particular, the appointments that he's made now?
The reason first and foremost is political self-aggrandizement.
There are two appointments that we can count on. One is the Minister of the FCT News and Wiki.
To capture Rivers State.
The other is Bianca Ojukwu, who is in the All Progressives Grand Alliance.
Yes, to see whether he can make an inroad to Southeast. Bianca Ojukwu is assistant to a minister, not a minister. That's what I told our Minister of State.
Bagos, you share the same position?
Well, I don't, like I said, I don't have a problem with whosoever the minister wants to, the president wants to appoint. But my own is the agenda. I don't know, because whether we like it or not, and whether the president likes it, there's what they call a Council of State meeting that all the governors across political parties meet in the villa to take decisions on issues that have to do with the country. So to me, if whatever party wants, if the president requests anybody within any other party to be part of his government, it's just like another Council of States meeting and so on and so forth. But again, it will not, where I will have a problem with is that if you are coming from either Labour, PDP or whatever, you are in that government, let your attributes, let your activities be seen that, look, you are still standing for your party, and at the same time, contributing the ideology and the agenda of your party, if it were your party that is the president, into the government that you are in now. So that is the difference that I want to outline. That if Labour is in the present administration, yes, what were those issues that Labour Party had promised Nigerians?
Those, I guess, it depends on the portfolio.
Yeah, so those should be the memo of the minister or the sole appointee to the president that, look, we can share these ideas. So, but if a minister is being appointed into the administration and you now abandon your own ideology of your own party and adopt the ideology of the party, that there is no longer a unity. It's no longer a unity government.
The idea, I don't know
Yeah.
if that is viable, because the idea of the president's appointment, I believe, is to fulfill his mandate.
Absolutely.
And his mandate is supposed to impact on the people.
Yeah, the mandate.
Absolutely.
The mandate comes with ideology. No
Yes.
matter his mandate he has,
Well.
if his mandate is to kill people and your mandate is not working, you are there, you should know, Mr. President, you can be able to address it
Maybe
this
that's
way.
why the president is being careful with his
Well,
appointment.
I respectfully disagree with the honorable member.
Yes.
The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and came into governance with his own manifesto. And so when he is appointing you from anywhere, you are coming in. The acceptance of it is that you're coming in to carry out the president's agenda. And that is why even his party members, PDP,
So,
renewed hope.
so,
According to renewed hope.
so no need for you that you're from another
Now,
party.
so what I'm saying
to come
is
and
that
carry that agenda. So
on
that
the day
no
that the
need.
president appointed the FCT minister, that was when I knew he was going to deal ruthlessly with South. Both in appointment, both in everything. You could imagine what Wike would have been saying to this government if he was not part of this government.
But he's not the only
And all these
Where are the
things.
rest?
The reason, again, that they appointed him is to emasculate the PDP. PDP is now the servant of servant. Because when you are a minister in a government, you are the servant to the president.
I think
Now, minister means
I think
servant. That's why you say minister of the gospel.
PDP is still standing on his own.
PDP is serving Wike now.
If the
And
FCT
then,
minister
the
is
FCT
serving,
minister is serving the president.
PDP is
So
not serving
PDP
the
is the
president
servant
at any,
of
at
the
all.
servant
That
now.
I will not
That
agree.
is one of the reasons.
PDP still stands as
Honorable,
opposition
you would have to allow me to
in
land.
Nigeria, but PDP is not serving the
now,
president at
I have
no
said it
any.
before.
If the minister
that
is
Labour
serving
Party,
the president,
Labour Party
let it
is
be that
giving
the
a
minister-
housemaid
but
to
PDP
APC now
at all is
under
not serving the
Abure
president.
leadership.
Because
These are the reasons.
I will not. I'm a PDP.
He's dragged his
I am
party.
Yeah,
He's
but
dragged-
he has
he's
the right
also
to. He
dragged
has
his
to.
party.
No, I say that
but the
before.
person-
But
but
he
for
has the right.
PDP,
He has the right
PDP
to
is not
disagree
serving
with
the
it.
That's
president.
fair.
But what he does
That's
not
a
have
fair-
is
that's
the
a fair
right
defense.
to
Yeah,
allow
yeah.
you to.
So,
He's
but
also-
if
PDP
Wike
is
serving
the
president,
servant
it's
of the
different.
servant.
He's also
No.
saying
APC
Abure. He
now.
also
Yeah,
brought in
yeah.
Abure into the
Yes,
picture.
that's my
So I'd
own-
like to hear what
These
he
are-
has to
Honorable,
say.
that's my
I
own
stand
opinion.
on my own party.
Yes. You should
That's
allow
fair.
me
Party
to. Good.
is standing.
That's fair.
So
The
these are the
party is an
reasons why
opposition.
he is
The
appointed.
party, the PDP is
Today,
standing. Whatsoever internal,
whether
whatever we
NNDC
have,
That-
but PDP is not serving
That's fair.
the president at
P-
any level.
PDP
That's
is not
fair.
even. He's a servant of servants.
And not at all. Not
How
at
about the
all.
Labour
Not
Party
at
in
all.
this instance? Then?
I told you earlier, under Abure, Labour Party is a housemaid to APC. It is pure and simple because you are purporting that you organize the national convention where nobody wants you, where nobody voted for you. The elected people, they have come together to choose a caretaker committee because your tenure has expired. And then, who are you governing? It is because APC needs such people to be in power in Labour Party. That's why they are in power, to be used for 2027.
Do you think
That's
there's
simple as that.
infiltration from the APC in your party as well?
Not at all. Whatsoever internal rancor we have within our party is our own internal issues that we're trying to address. But for our own whatsoever opinion that anybody will have, that because a PDP, a card-carrying member of the party is with the government, that is his own private business. But then, for us as a party, we know that we are working to reject the PDP to be a formidable opposition, to see that how we can be able to address an individual cannot be identified to be the whole organ of the party. That's the difference, because it's only the FCT minister that is the president. There's no any other appointment
just one
of a
second.
card-carrying member of the PDP. That is our president administration.
I really don't want this conversation to go political.
Yeah.
I really wanted us to deal with the issues. So let's come back to the issue of governance and focus on cutting the cost of governance. Now, the president not long ago had cut down his entourage, cut down that of the vice president, and now his latest move is being commended by a number of persons. He has cut down the entourage of the ministers, saying that only 3 vehicles cut down the security as well. Even told the security heads that they should cut down, except when necessary. They shouldn't move in long convoys. Do you commend the president as well? Is this a good move? It may not be, as some have said, the best move ever to address cost of governance, but is this a step in the right direction?
Within Abuja, Terry, they can do that within Abuja. All of them, all the ministers, none of them can travel to their places with 2 or 3 cars. It's not possible. They know that none of them can go to their villages with 2, 3 cars. It's not possible. So it's just cosmetic within Abuja. Because none of it's just the truth. If they are going to their villages, they mobilize security, they mobilize civil defense, they mobilize, let them enter their villages with 2, 3 cars and let's see if they will come out. They mobilize, they make sure that there is advance, they make sure there is this. It's just cosmetics within Abuja movement. But none of them can go to their villages with 2 or 3 cars without security. It's not possible. With the high rate of insecurity in this country, let them dare it and let's see if they will come back the way they went.
Mr. Okonkwo.
Well, like I said, there is nothing to commend because what you are trying to protect by cutting down on the cars, you are losing by bloating your cabinet. If you say 3 cars for a minister, for instance, and you have 3 ministers for 1 ministry, you are talking about 9 cars, 9 drivers. That is why we're saying, for you to make sense and for people to commend you, you have to cut down on the number of ministers. You have 37 ministers by the Constitution to choose. In America, that is like a continent. They have about 15 secretaries of state. So you can come down to 37. And then when you talk about commendation, you will be commendable. Now you are condemnable because you have about 48 ministers for a poor country. And you want to buy your private jet. Use 21 billion naira to build the house of your vice president. Use 20 billion naira to give your chief of staff. You use billions to give your wife to spend on what? What am I commending? I condemn in its entirety this government and its profligacy. They should repent.
Okay, so let's look at the something related, and it has to do with the people. While the government cut costs in every aspect, especially with the issue of fuel subsidy, whereas, of course, advised by the World Bank and the IMF that this money should go directly to Nigerians or be used to, implement projects that are directly beneficial. The issue of the Humanitarian Ministry comes to mind. It's supposed to be a ministry where governments can reach the people directly. But there are those who have described it as a corruption ministry. Now, under Better Edu, it was even made more evident. And many said this is a time for the ministry to go. It would seem that the president doesn't agree because we now have 2 ministers. Do you think, do you agree with those who say the ministry should go? Or do you expect some more work to be done with that ministry because of how impactful it would be on the people?
Well,
When...
no, well, okay. Make your point first.
Okay, no. When President Tinubu still chose another person for that ministry and now concluded he's not interested in fighting corruption, Better Edu was a medical person, a woman that ought to have milk of human motherly kindness. If she can go there and be overwhelmed by the corruption in that system, and she inherited women before her, spending 40 billion, the one that EFCC is talking about. If you put a Nigerian angel, not angel of God, if you put a Nigerian angel in that ministry, that angel will be very corrupt.
The sad thing about this is because there is no outcome of that investigation.
Ought to be abolished.
All those things against Better are still regarded as allegations.
That's why I'm saying that ministry should be abolished. One, it is not doing anything. Just check what Better Edu did. They brought our money. They said they were going to give to 4
allegedly
vulnerable. No, this one was, done. That was part of the reasons she was suspended.
That was where an investigation was to be carried out.
No, they brought out money, 585 million was budgeted for 4 states, including Lagos, for vulnerable people. Where I'm going is that where you're giving the vulnerable people 585 million, you are using 3.2 billion naira for consultancy fee. It was there in the open. So how do you justify it? And even that money was paid into a private account. These are part of the reasons she was suspended. So you can imagine the gap in corruption. Why I'm saying it should be abolished is that you, will be subsidizing consumption, why don't you use that money to subsidize production? What we need in Nigeria is productivity. If you can make those private hospitals to survive, a lot of people will be employed. Some of these vulnerable people will have work there. But when you are giving them fish, 20,000 naira a month, 50,000 naira a month, what will it afford them? They will eat and they will be hungry. So it will be of no benefit, even if they are doing it right. And in this case, they are not even doing it right. So what do you need that ministry for? Nothing, just to share money to the corrupt and to the rich.
Honorable Bago, social welfare is a common thing in many countries, especially developed countries. This could have passed as a ministry that would advance social welfare, wouldn't it?
Yes, social welfare in developed countries have helped. But with what? Statistics. What are the statistics we have to be able to say that this is how the social welfare will be dispensed? Statistics. We don't have the statistics as a country. The statistics are, so the only thing at the end of the day that any of those ministries, well, by the way, we are happy that we have from Plateau, that is a Plateau man that is handling the ministry. But let me not speak on the side that you will see that, because he's an APC man and a Plateau man, the ministry, no, but then we're looking at cutting off cost of governance. For me, in general, there are three ministries that are supposed to be in one, in the same place, in the first instance. First of all, the Ministry of Labor, Employment and Productivity, is it? That's the ministry that has been there for long. And now you have Ministry of Regional Development. You have Ministry of Humanitarian. If you look at these three ministries, all their mandates are the same. Productivity, labor, employment, regional development, humanitarian, all their mandates are the same. And if you look at dispensing this, you want to talk about the social whatsoever, we don't have the statistics we need to actually give social welfare to the people. In Nigeria, it's zero. Today, there are people from Niger and other neighboring countries that have our name, that are carrying Nigerian green passport. So how can you even make them to be part of those that you want to give them the social welfare? The only time that social welfare works in the Nigerian system of governance is during elections. When for 5,000, the Ministry of Humanitarian will start disbursing for 5,000 to market women. Or when you go to a state and the party officials will gather names that these are the people that they will be giving either rice or they will be giving this. We supposed to know that, look, if A, B, C, D are getting this, these are Nigerians, these are registered Nigerians, this is the statistics we have as a people in this country. But whatsoever social intervention that we are talking about in this country, for me, it has never been genuine. It's not accurate because we don't have the statistics. And that's why when we were in the National Assembly, the last assembly, we've been fighting that, look, who are these people that you're even giving these interventions to? That as representatives of the people, we don't even know them. Because I can clearly say that, okay, in my own constituency, I know the registered, I know who is this, I know, but you will hear and you will see on paper that maybe in Jos South, 200 or 2,000 women were giving this, and none of our women.
I take it that both your arguments suggest that the first move by the ministers of humanitarian affairs should be to clean up the data before implementing any policy.
The data is very key.
My own suggestion is that it should be scrapped. Simple. There's nothing like, what are you cleaning? Are you cleaning what you don't have? You're saying cleaning. Cleaning is, if you have to have a shoe before you talk about cleaning.
We're almost out of time now. I want us to take a quick look at the economic state of the nation. And I want to get your reactions to what the NLC has said regarding the IMF and the World Bank. You know, the NLC president is accusing them of having a long-standing pattern of recommending policies that often exacerbate economic hardship in Nigeria and other developing nations. What do you
Yeah,
say?
you see Nigeria, Nigeria is not a poor country, but Nigeria is a country that has been mismanaged to be seen poor over the years from 1960 till now, because all the campaign promises have been the same: good road, water, hospitals. There's these campaigns, while other countries are talking of develop agriculture, develop healthcare. People are talking about how AI will be doing this. We were still looking at way back. So how we have been mismanaged over the years. IMF, the policies, where are the alternatives? Where are the alternatives?
The context of these policies.
Yeah.
Some say are peculiar to Nigeria, and not peculiar to Nigeria. So we cannot implement as much, especially not just Nigeria, anyway, developing countries.
Now, any government that has to wait for foreigners to teach you about your own country is incompetent and dumb. No, how can I come to your village and start telling you about the economic policies that work in your village? That is what IMF and World Bank is talking about. This is Nigeria. We have our peculiarities. We must look inward. We must look at our history. What is it that works for us? How can IMF tell you to depreciate your currency and you go foolishly to do it when you know that you are an importer of everything that you need? You depreciate your currency when you are a net exporter in order to make your goods to be cheaper, to compete internationally so that foreigners will buy your goods. But this is a government that you are importing all your goods and you're depreciating your economy, meaning shooting yourself even on the leg, because your own goods, that the goods you are now importing will be of higher cost. That was why when this government removed subsidy the first time, the whole subsidy was removed. But when they depreciated Naira by more than 300%, they could not even afford their own fuel because they needed more money now to buy the refined imported fuel. What a foolishness. That is why I'm saying that this CBN, I don't know the economics textbook that he reads. I am an economist. IMF is telling you what will suit them, not what will suit you. And when crisis comes, they will say, I no tell you. Meanwhile, what they were telling you is different. Now they are telling us we need 15 years to recover. Meanwhile, we are practicing what we are teaching the Nigerian government. So if you should wait for foreigners to teach you, it's because you are bereft of knowledge.
Okay, so interestingly, Nigeria's political future has been questioned. And that's because some question, truthfully, every policy of government is driven by the political class. And when you look at the crop of politicians now and those yet to come, and those already in the saddle, a lot of question where Nigeria stands in the near future. So as we close this conversation, I'd like you to respond to concerns around Nigeria's political future. And specifically, Honorable Bagos, as you respond to that, I want you to respond to the issues around the orientation and mindset of politicians and how they relate with Nigerians, especially in the wake of this issue with Honorable Alex Ikweche. Honorable Bagos, quick.
Well, I tell you, the major problem, and we have said it not once, not twice, that the problem we have as a country and within the political space is about leadership recruitment. Leadership recruitment in the sense that now it has been, it's now an ideology to the younger generation and young politicians that it's only when you get into politics that you'll be rich. It's only when you get into politics you have access to a lot of things. But that is not so in developed countries. I have seen where a US congressman is looking for businessmen to lobby for issues.
Okay.
But here you will see that it's the businessmen that are looking for the politicians to lobby for issues.
Why do you think that is so? Anyways.
Yeah, so leadership, for me, in closing, Terry, leadership recruitment is a very big problem. That the ideology of democracy, the ideology of politics needs to be rejigged and more reorientation, because the younger generations that are coming in, everybody that is seeking for position is just looking for, it is my turn.
Absolutely. Let me come to Honorable, on Mr. Okonkwo, just as a wrap up, please. In 60 seconds.
Oh, well, What I want to tell you is that no country will survive under abject poverty, because poverty irritates people. When people have lack, they are suicidal. They can do anything. We need government that is run by men of integrity, men of capacity, competence, and character, in order to yield the democracy dividends. That's the only thing that will make us to rise up. The legislature should rise up to do their job. Their job is there to represent the people and check the excesses of the executive.
From being the Minister of Petroleum, so as to enable a separate individual give all his best to that ministry, so as to enable the ministry flourish.